And welcome back to On the Hash with Hatfield. It is our weekly high school football podcast with all of you out there as we talk about everything in the world of high school football. The playoffs have arrived, and we have a special guest with us on the program. He is the head football coach at his alma mater, Bayside High School in Virginia Beach, where he is in his 11th year at the helm. Bayside is back in the postseason, a number 6 seed in Region 5A, where they will take on the number 6 seed Indian River Braves. As it'll be a matchup coming up on Thursday night, November the 9th, 7 o'clock kickoff in Chesapeake. It's a rematch of a game played 2 years ago in the postseason. We say hello to Coach John White out there. Coach, good to have you on the podcast. And the first thing out of the gates, the coaches that have come on this episode of the podcast before their game have not lost this year. So it's a lot of pressure for you to live up to in your squad to go advance to the second round. How you been?
Been good. At least have an opportunity to keep the streak going. So I think that's something that we can execute on Thursday. Looking forward to it.
Sure. Now, looking at your team this year, you got off to a really good start. You won your first 2 games, Salem out of Virginia Beach, which was viewed as one of the games to watch out for to begin the season. I think it was 27-21, if memory serves me right. We've got the ticker coming across the screen with your season results here right now, in fact, as we speak. Then you beat Tallwood the next week, 2-0. Hit a little bit of a rocky patch, but you patched it back together with the last couple of wins over Ocean Lakes and Princess Anne. Sort of assess how the year has gone for your group and what you feel you can do well potentially in this first-round playoff game against Indian River.
Well, I think that we found some traction in regards to who we are, offense, defense, and special teams. We've had our ups and downs in regards to our self-inflicted, errors and mistakes and everything like that. But I think it's something that with this group being so young and in such pivotal spots, I think this group has learned to grow through it. And I think a lot of them they simply get what they inspect. They don't worry too much about what the opponent does. It's simply what they do, and they've been responding well to their pluses and their minuses. So it's a really good group that I think, can actually do some big things this Thursday and proceed forward.
As you look at your team right now, you do have a lot of young faces. I know you graduated a good chunk of some guys, especially defensive side of the ball. But offensively, one of the young men who's really stepped up for you, Cam Kirby, sophomore quarterback. I know he had a really good game to begin the year against Salem. Had a really strong finish against Princess Anne. What are the things that you like about him just being a 10th grader in his first year as a varsity starting quarterback, as you've had some bright moments with him at times?
Um, Cam, Cam is a natural passer. He's a very good natural athlete. He's one of those kids that when he first came in, he was quote unquote undersized. But he put some weight on, put some natural size on, just going from his freshman year to his sophomore year. And then he also grew cognitively in regards to, just his holistic concept of the game. Any simple quick throw or wide open throw he can make, but as far as deducing laterally and vertically, he can do that well. Also, he can make some things happen with his feet. When he does well, we do well. Simply put, if he makes an error, he's accountable for it immediately. And just at this level, for him to be a sophomore to do the things he's doing is pretty big. I think he's easily a Division I guy, a Power 5 guy. I think, based on what I've seen before, and of course academically where he sits as well. So he's going to do some really big things. If he's given time, he can do some real big things.
It's interesting. I was just speaking with the coach a couple weeks ago up in Lunenburg, Central Lunenburg. Will Thomas, his team had an 8-2 season. They lost their final game. They get a bye week before the playoffs, and I think you're in this case 2 years running now. Where a lot of times in the beach schedule, you have it for 2 years running. What's your feeling on having the bye week before the postseason? It can be an advantage for you. You can rest up some guys, heal up the injuries, that type of thing. There's also the rust factor. We see it talked about with the baseball playoffs with these teams that won 100-plus games. They had a time off. They get knocked out. It's a little different with high school kids in football. Football is a much more demanding, physical, grueling sport. Where do you sit on the pros and cons of it, and how have you approached it any differently than perhaps last year or previous postseasons for you?
Well, I think when you have a bye week, the only thing you're missing for real is the competitive game piece. You still have your practices, and that's where I think a lot of people step into formulating things their own way. You can go to a practice and kind of country club it up like you in the pros and kind of like walk on through it, or you can have your normal practices, keep it somewhat competitive, You can do some new installs. You can refine some things that you weren't doing. Reassess or positively reinforce some things that weren't going your way and fix them then. So that's the things that we've done. We kept the competitive edge. We weren't banging like crazy and hurting each other, but we did have to make sure that we refined where we were. The things that we do well, we get them better. The things that we need to, tinker with and mess with, we took care of those as well. So that's our approach with the bye week. Now, no matter what hand we're dealt, we're gonna just take it as a blessing and treat it that way. These last 2 years, we had the week 10 bye. We treat it as is. Around this time, guys get the sniffles and congestion and allergies and stuff like that. So it helps to have a day here and a day there to kind of get back to where they need and get some quality sleep, so to speak, not just rest, but just quality sleep, which is pretty good too.
Yeah, considering just a couple of years ago, we were also dealing with not just the coughs and the sniffles, we had the whole COVID element, and that was that spring season, which was, a lot of dicey times and trying moments for everybody in the world, not just with athletics and sports and football here. You've been at Bayside now. This is your 11th year. We'll get back to the playoffs and your matchup coming up and some other key contributors that have helped you to this point, and you'll be counting on this week and hopefully beyond. But you're at Bayside, former linebackers we showed in our cover there with the All Beach, and you played at Hampton University. You were part of Coach Darnell Moore's staff that won the region championship back in 2010. For the audience, what makes Bayside a special place for you? I know it's your alma mater, but you've been there quite a while, and you are now, I joke with Robert Jackson and John Keppel, Jackson of Lansdowne, who you played for at Bayside, and Keppel, who we had on a few weeks ago. You are the longest tenured or second longest tenured guy, I think it is, at his specific school. So you're one of the old heads in a lot of ways, which wasn't the case, it felt like just a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a picture. I think that Smoke was a senior. We are getting ready to play somebody at home. I know Smoke had on a red jersey, and my goatee was all dark. It didn't have a gray in it, and of course I was still bald, but I didn't have a this was I didn't have all the gray. So yeah, I mean, it's a privilege to be in one spot for a while. I mean, you take care of what you care about. I love my spot because I played here and did well, and I know how much the program and how much Bayside as a whole, how much football Coach Jackson as a whole and his staff back then, how much they helped me grow as a person. And I think that that's what makes it a special place for me, because I think that we can do the same thing for the guys that we have that come through our program and come through the halls of Bayside. They simply put, the X's and O's matter. Winning matters, but you as a person matter more than all those things. One thing I tell parents and tell coaches to emphasize to the players and emphasize to the players as well is playing football here. You get a ring, a trophy, the whole nine. That's not going to be the highlight of your life. Playing football at Bayside High School is not going to be the highlight of your life. We don't ever want it to be that. We want you to simply have tools to matriculate as a functioning adult once you leave. When you go to college, we want you to deal with the adversity that you have to deal with to get your degree and all your relationships and all your corporate America issues, so on and so forth. I think that we can always instill those tools in our student athletes. And I think we can do it through football. So that's why I think it's such a special place. And I think that our staff is in place the right way to instill those things in these guys.
And well, you've helped nurture and develop a lot of players on the next level. You were with Darnell Moore as an assistant coach, then became the head coach, elevated in 2013. And a list of guys you mentioned: Smoke, Taquan, Mizell. For the audience who doesn't know, went on to play at University of Virginia, played in the NFL, still playing pro ball. You've had guys like Henry Coley, you had Quinn Blanding, Demetrius Nicholson, Anthony Cooper. List of players goes on and on and on. And speaking of Coley, you've got a young man who's related to him on your football team now, do you not?
Yeah, Octavian Young. Last week or week before last, he was WTKR Student Athlete of the Week. Octavian's been doing very well this year. Scored a touchdown versus Starwood. Had a couple picks this year. Has been coming down very, very well for the run game. Run support plays our weak side safety. The Octavian's been doing fantastic. And on top of all that stuff, more importantly, he's the vice president of the National Honor Society. So this is this is a dude that he has like one up on Henry in that one in regard to that academic piece. Henry, of course, was stellar academically, but Octavian is just he's amazing. He is amazing. When he does well, everyone else rallies behind him because he's just such a good dude, man. And he's phenomenal to have with us. So his, and that's it kind of goes back to the previous question and it goes full circle. We played PA, it was our senior night, guys do well, so on and so forth. And here comes Henry with his two sons and his wife Jessica, and it was just great to stand there on the field with them because they live in Fayetteville now. So it's just great to see him and hug him and his children and his wife and just see all of them. It's just things like that matter so much. And I know we get caught up in the winning piece all the time, but to see someone like him that did well at all levels to come on back and to just show that he's good. There are no stressors with this and life is just he's good. Like that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen that's really put me at ease when seeing some of our alumni come through, and that's a blessing to see some of these dudes come through that way.
That is so awesome and really neat. And Henry will probably hear this later and say, yeah, he might want to have one up on me, but I can still whoop his tail and tackle him in the open field right now at his age. I'm
I
sure he
agree.
feels that way.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Big time. Big time.
You also have a young man, and it makes me feel old when I see these guys that are related. You have Martrez Chavius Finner. We remember his relatives, and Isaiah Finner, Chandler Finner, who played in the Beach District, and he's a key cog for you. Tell us more about him and some others that have contributed that you're counting on this week and beyond.
Well, Martrez along with Octavian, the two of them are up top at safety. And Martrez has that same football IQ like his uncle Chandler. And of course Isaiah who played at Cox. And of course his dad, Juice, played at Lil Maurice, played at Bayside along with me. Very, very good football IQ, good guy in space, pretty good receiver that can make some things happen for us. And he's a signal caller for us on defense. Montrez is kind of like the second middle linebacker on the defense because he makes so many calls for us. In addition to that, you have Halim Hartnett at one corner and Breon Hartnett, Halim's brother, at the other corner, two very, very fast guys. So the four of those DBs, along with who we have in the front seven, Amir Lyde, Isaiah Merritt, and of course Ralph Parker the third at Mike. That group has grown so much. 5-5 isn't really indicative of what they are talent wise. It's one of those kind of misleading articles of data where you won't really find out until you step on the field. So it's a good group led by Montrez and led by Octavian, and these guys put it together very well. Very, very sharp group.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Coach, because you do go 5-5, but you were just a few plays away from possibly being 5-1, 6-0 when you played Green Run and you were tied with them at halftime, driving them in the third quarter. Give me a sense of what you've learned about this group through some of the adversity as you gear up for this matchup with Indian River, and kind of what are the message points to your team as you take on a team that's got a lot of good pieces.
Well, I mean, it's going to sound like something off of like Kung Fu Panda or something, man. But for real, you can't really worry about what was and what will be. You take care of what's right in front of you right now. If you keep on looking at your rear, you forget what's in front of you. And if you keep staring too far ahead, you won't see what's in front of you. So you got to take care of your tasks as they present themselves. So we have a task tomorrow to have a good practice and sharpen up our stuff, and then get ready for traveling over to Indian River and take care of things over there. Simple as that.
Last two for your lecture run, and I appreciate your time here on the Hash with Hatfield with Bayside head football coach John White. When you look at them on film, what are the things that jump out at you and can concern you, but it certainly grabs your attention of you got to do this well in order to have a chance to beat them?
Well, they have a couple of game breaks. We played against Rayvon Moore last year when he played at Salem. The Hinton kid, the running back, he's a blazing fast kid. He did well against us 2 years ago when he was a sophomore. Things have changed what they're doing strategically and everything like that. But at the end of the day, we know we have to neutralize those things as well as we need to isolate the Jordan kid, number 9 at DN for them. There's certain war daddies that they have and certain leaders that they have, on that offense and on that defense. That I think if we can neutralize those things and play our brand of football, Simply like I always tell you when we speak, simply be the DJ, not the dancer. We dictate what we do and kind of influence and dictate their mistakes and what they do. If we can do it that way, we can be on top and carry it through beyond round one or round two. So
I like it. You got Kung Fu Panda in there and DJ, not the dancer. Lastly, before we let you run here, Coach, I know we brought up the region championship 2010, so Bayside fans would love to have an opportunity to do that again. For this group that has a lot of underclassmen, 10th grade quarterback, what would it mean to get a playoff win as you build? And then you would, if you were to get that win, you take on a Cox or Kempsville. Who knows what would transpire? But how big is this moment for those young kids in terms of, continue this thing to build here as you want to finish up on a good note?
Well, it just simply proves to them that they can get it done. I think nowadays people get so caught up in looking in other people's windows and seeing what they've done, whether it's any facet of social media. They get so caught up in what everyone else is doing and not noticing what their own, what their own progress is. And our guys have put a whole lot of daggone work in, and it's almost simple to, cut themselves short or even quit on themselves instead of just, pushing through and finishing the job. So I think if we take care of business on Thursday, I think it'll give us a shot in the arm to go pretty far.
Well, looking forward to it. Should be a fun one over there at James L. Fry Stadium on Thursday night with the Bayside Marlins, the number 6 seed, traveling to take on the 3rd-seeded Indian River Braves. Winner there gets the winner of Kempsville Cox. Other side of the bracket featuring the likes of top-seeded Green Run hosting Deep Creek and 4th-seeded Tallwood hosting 5th-seeded Salem. They played a doozy of a game, 46-42 in their first meeting, just like Kempsville and Cox put a 1-point thriller in their meeting just a couple weeks ago. Well, Coach, thank you so much. All the best. And I'll be sure to make sure that Coach Young does not pick you because he's the ultimate jinx. That's why I kept you away from coming on with me and him because you would have definitely taken an L with that.
Tell him to stick with Southeastern District. Just tell him choose the other river, and we'll do the rest. Ed's my guy, but I need him to do the rest on his end.
Okay, well, that's good. He's getting ready for basketball season right now. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and all the best. We'll see you on Thursday night.
Yes, sir. Take care.
That's Coach John White of the Bayside Marlins with us here on the Hash with Hatfield. We'll take a timeout, put the finishing touches in this episode after we hear from some of our sponsors at the Plex. Stay tuned.